Om Gana Tamaranda Shah Gana Gana Salakaya Taksumali Tamye Natasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobi Stam Stapi Tamye Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaisnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sargajatam Saha Gana Vagunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sabadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saha Gana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Vadi Vrindavaneshwari Vishabham Sutta Devi Panamami Hari Pre Vanchakapa Surubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaisnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we're reading from the Bhagavad-Gita as it is, chapter 17, text number 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Shri Vida Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Chaitatam Shrinu. Word for word, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The Supreme Person of Godhead said, Shri Vidha, of three kinds. Bhavati, becomes. Shraddha, the faith. Dehinam, of the embodied. Sa, that. Swabhavaja, according to his mode of material nature. Satviki, in the mode of goodness. Rajasi, in the mode of passion. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. Tamasi, in the mode of ignorance. Cha, and. Iti, thus. Tam, that. Shrinu, hear from me. Translation by His Very Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Person of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of three kinds, in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now hear about this. Please repeat. The Supreme Person of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of three kinds, in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now hear about this. Purport. Those who know the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but out of laziness or indolence, give up following these rules and regulations, are governed by the modes of material nature. According to their previous activities in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, they acquire a nature which is of a specific quality. The association of the living entity with the different modes of nature has been going on perpetually. Since the living entity is in contact with material nature, he acquires different types of mentality according to his association with the material modes. But this nature can be changed if one associates with a bona fide spiritual master and abides by his rules and the scriptures. Gradually, one can change his position from ignorance to goodness, or from passion to goodness. The conclusion is that blind faith in a particular mode of nature cannot help a person become elevated to the perfectional stage. One has to consider things carefully with intelligence in the association of a bona fide spiritual master. Thus one can change his position to a higher mode of nature. Okay, so in the previous chapter, chapter 16, Krishna establishes the two different kinds of people in the world. The faithful followers of the scriptures are divine, and the faithless are demoniac. In 1623, he's concluded that those who disregard and behave whimsically do not attain happiness either in this life or the next. So in short, Krishna has described in that chapter the people of two extremes. Those who have scriptural faith are divine, and the faithless are demoniac. In this chapter, he describes those who are in the middle, those with non-scriptural faith. So I'll just first give you an overview of this chapter, because I'd like to talk about faith actually in Krishna consciousness. So in number 1, in verse number 1, Arjuna has inquired about the unauthorized worship of those who have some faith but it's not based on scripture, and he has some questions that he wanted Krishna to address his doubts. So the questions are, if one with faith follows some rules which are not mentioned in the scripture injunctions, what is his position? And then there are several following questions. Are those who create some sort of God by selecting a human being and placing their faith in him, worshiping in goodness, passion, or ignorance? Do such persons attain the perfectional stage of life? And is it possible for them to be situated in real knowledge and elevate themselves to the highest perfectional stage? He also asks, do those who do not follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but who have faith in something and worship gods and demigods and men, attain success in their effort? So, and then in the verses 2 through 7 in this chapter, Krishna addresses faith and worship in the three modes. He describes the behavioral characteristics of these persons, that the behavioral characteristics that arise from their acquired nature, which is, as Prabhupada describes in the word for word, their swabhava, and this is due to previous impressions by the influence of the modes. So we bring with us our previous impressions from our previous life. And then in verses 8 through 10, he addresses different, like foods in the modes. What type of foods do these people take when they're in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance? And for instance, he's saying that foods that adhere to those in the mode of goodness increase duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. And then he continues to describe the foods that are bitter, etc. They're in the mode of passion, and they cause distress, misery, and disease. And also he describes foods in the mode of ignorance. So then in verses 11 through 13, he talks about the sacrifice in the modes. In verses 14 through 19, he talks about austerities of the mind, body, and speech in the modes. In verses 20 through 22, he talks about giving charity in the modes. But as usual, the conclusion is Om Tat Sat. And that indicates the Supreme Absolute Truth Vishnu, means making sacrifices transcendental by uttering the sound vibration. And any sacrifice, charity, or austerity without faith in the Supreme Lord is impermanent and is asat. Okay. So on to the discussion about the different faiths. I've been thinking about faith, actually examining my own self. That's how I, came up with deciding to talk about the faith and faith in Krishna consciousness, and where is my faith, and how advanced am I becoming? Am I advancing at all in my faith in the Supreme Lord? So I looked up the dictionary definition of faith. It says faith, a strong belief, especially without proof, complete trust or confidence or allegiance to a person or a cause, which I found it's a little dry, but that's what's the dictionary. But Prabhupada says in Bhagavad-Gita 2:41, a strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life. And in Bhagavad-Gita 4:39, he defines faith as unflinching trust in something sublime. So that word sublime intrigued me, so I further looked up the word sublime. I contemplated the word sublime. And it's, and there's some similar words, some words that came up like blissful, rapturous, out of this world, that makes sense, out of this world, and divine. So we know the process for devotees. The first thing you have to have is faith. Then you have a whole process. There's 9 stages to advancing and having increased faith. So we know the first one is Shraddha, which is faith. The second one is Sadhu Sangha, to associate with the devotees, especially advanced devotees. And next one is Bhajana Kriya. We start practicing the regular principles and we start performing devotional service. And next one is Anartha Nivritti. The anarthas start falling away, especially the gross anarthas. And then Nishta means steadiness and firm conviction in what Krishna is saying, and the spiritual master especially. And Ruchi, you develop a taste for devotional service, you develop a taste for chanting, you develop a taste for the process. And then Ashakti is attachment. And then Bhava, which is a preliminary love of God, and then Prema, which is pure love of God. And these steps are all described in the Nectar of Devotion by Srila Rupa Goswami. So also in terms of faith, I was thinking how, people have faith in different things. Like for instance, people have faith. Even when I was growing up, my parents used to tell me, if you work for the government, you're good for life, no problem, you're situated. It's like a secure position. But we see several years ago, and just recently, the Washington government shut down because the Republicans and Democrats couldn't agree on something that was supposed to be passed. So they just decided to shut the government down. And that meant that everyone who was working for the government, and they shut it down for some time. So, you can see that all these people who run the government are just interested in themselves. They're not worried about the people. But people had faith in the government. So these people, they had, rent to pay, they had food to buy, they had bills to pay. But the government, until they could get together, to pass whatever law that needed to be passed, the people were suffering for lack of, payment for their services. And also, people have faith in different persons, like they may follow someone, and we can think of some past incidents where maybe they followed one type of person, or they all lost their lives, or that type of thing. So even atheists have some kind of faith. They have faith that there's no God. That's their faith. So faith for us is faith in the words of Krishna. So Arjuna said to Krishna, Sarvamitad Ritamanye. He said, I accept everything you say to be true and completely perfect. Acceptance of the words of the spiritual master. And he accepted Krishna as his spiritual master. So acceptance of the words of the spiritual master, which are non-different from the words of Krishna. So Yasha Devi Para Bhaktir Yatha Devi Tata Guru Tashyate Katita Yatar Praka Sante Mahatmanaha. One who has unflinching devotion for the Supreme Lord and is directed by the spiritual master, in whom he has similar unflinching faith, can see the Supreme Person of Godhead by revelation. So we have to have faith in Krishna's promises. When he says, Sarva dharma parityaja mamekam saranam faja aham tvam sarva papyo moksha yishyami ma suchaha. So Krishna is saying, just have faith in me. Just give up everything and listen to what I say. And so we should have faith also in Krishna's promises to us. All throughout the Gita, Krishna tells us to surrender to him. And he's telling us how we are very dear to him, how he wants his parts and parcels to come back home, back to Godhead, in order to be happy. The Gita is his declaration of his love for us. The song of Gita is his song for us, telling us, please, I love you, I'm your dear friend. I want you to come home. I want you to be happy. I don't want you to suffer in this material world, thinking you're going to get happiness. I was thinking some incidents in my life. There have been so many. We all have had incidents in our life where our faith has been tested, or we are asked to be faithful in a certain situation, but maybe we get an anxiety because we think, Krishna's not going to answer it, or maybe it's not that we sit back and we don't do anything. We do our part, and then we wait on Krishna. So when I first joined the movement, after I got initiated, 93, then 94, I got second, and then 95, my Guru Maharaj was on his way to Africa because he had some preaching projects there. So he asked me to move to Gitanagari, leave everything and move. I was living in Washington, D.C., and Gitanagari, if you know the ISKCON farm, is in Pennsylvania, in the countryside. So he asked me to move there. So just a preface to that, I had been coming around my Guru Maharaj since 1990. And of course, coming out of the material world, being a little cynical, I just was making sure I was checking everything out, making sure everything was what it's supposed to be. So after I developed faith in him, then when he asked me to move, I moved to Gitanagari, and he also told me not to expect anything from the temple, just to move in the temple, who gave up my work and just moved to the temple. And he said, because Gitanagari was struggling financially at the time, so because I had developed complete faith in him and that what he said was true, that I just need to follow his instructions. So I moved to Gitanagari. And even though the Gitanagari had no money, Krishna, the Radha Damodar, the deities there, they took care. I didn't really worry about anything. Donations were already coming. People were giving donations. I didn't have any struggle. All I had to do was just abide by the faith that I had in my spiritual master and do my service. And Krishna responded to that faith by taking care of, and he's always taken care. He's always taken care. There's so many instances. Like we have faith in, okay, if we get on a plane, the pilot is going to get us there safely. We have faith in, for instance, the dollar bill, like the U.S. dollar bill, which is supposed to be backed by gold, but there's no real backing by the gold. It's just paper. So we have faith in that paper, that we can take it somewhere and get an exchange, but anything could happen, like even when here in India, when Modi changed the money and everybody was in anxiety, they had to go to the ATM and try to figure out, how to manage until he straightened things out. But our faith should be completely in Krishna. I can't emphasize it enough because I've had so many examples in my own life of where Krishna showed me that all you have to do is have faith in me. I'm the provider, I'm the maintainer, I'm the protector. I'm the one that takes care of my living entities. If he's taking care of the birds, they don't have to work. If he's taking care of all the animals, they all get taken care of. So we should have, faith in Krishna. I want to read first let me also tell you some pastimes with, some I'm reading about some of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, and they all had complete faith in Srila Prabhupada because they knew that Srila Prabhupada loved them and that Srila Prabhupada was represented in Krishna and that Srila Prabhupada showed his conviction, because when he discussed anything with anybody, he didn't have to stop and think about it, or if there was some disagreement or they didn't agree with you. He didn't have any difficulty at all responding to whatever situation it was, whatever question anybody had, because he was convinced, because he came from the spiritual world, he could give it to his disciples. One instance, they were on a train, I don't remember where they were going, and Yamuna, one of Srila Prabhupada's fantastic cooks, not only cooked, but she did everything. She did deity worship, she did lectures, she did kirtans. But Prabhupada wanted hot rice. Now, so she decided, I'm going to see how I can get Srila Prabhupada some hot rice. So she went into the kitchen, and of course the kitchen was, I think at that time, they might have been using coal for the stove. So everything was not clean, it was, dirty and messy, and she asked the conductor if she could cook for Srila Prabhupada. And he told her no, he wasn't going to allow it. So she said, if you don't let me cook for my spiritual master, I'm going to commit suicide and jump off the train. So, of course he was like, I don't want this on my head. So he let her, and she first cleaned back there as much as she could, and she brought the hot rice to Srila Prabhupada, just to please her spiritual master, because she had faith in his words that if the spiritual master asks you to do something, there's a way to do it. You just have to figure out, the way to do it. And Krishna in the heart will also show you how to do it, And there was another story I was sharing that I look at a lot of the Prabhupada videos regarding the disciples because it encourages me when I see how those disciples were so committed to their spiritual master that he could, take them on a train and tell them to get off somewhere, like in Delhi, and they were new, and just tell them, go start a temple. And they would go and do it, So I'll just kind of shorten it, but Mother Malati, her and Shamasundar had the first child in Krishna consciousness movement. Her name was Saraswati. And Malati used to cook for Srila Prabhupada. And there were so many instances where the facilities were I don't know, not very good, but somehow she managed to, on a moving bus, or maybe, the cooking, the fire, she had to use wood, or however she had to do it, she did it. But Prabhupada's godbrothers were visiting And she had gone to a lot of difficulty to get the boga to even cook, because she had to go out in the dark to go, and she had to take her child with her to go try to find boga first. You know, being new in India, I mean, I have problems, you know, trying to figure out, you know, like getting things. And she had to go get the boga and then bring it back and cook it, and with her daughter as well. So when his godbrothers saw that it was a woman cooking, they were a little, you know, disturbed a little bit, you know. So, and she was feeling very, very shy about having to bring in the prasadam, for Srila Prabhupada. So when she went in, she covered her whole head and face and kind of crawled in with the plate so nobody would see her. So she crawled in with the plate to give to Srila Prabhupada without looking up, without looking at anybody, and started backing away. And Srila Prabhupada said to his godbrothers, "This is Malati and she's my disciple, and I would slit my throat for her and she would slit her throat for me." And I was like, wow, that's very, very deep. You know, he was saying in front of them, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter what body she's in. She's doing her best to serve me. She's my disciple. You know? And there's a love, there's above, more than love between, you know, doesn't matter the body. So I just get inspired by all the risks that the Prabhupada disciples took out of their allegiance and love to Srila Prabhupada. I wanted to read out of in regards to faith. I'll read something out of Bhagavad-Gita 9:3. 9:3. Okay, where? So I'll start, I won't start from the beginning, I'll start sort of in the middle of the purport. He's saying that faith is the most important factor for progress in Krishna consciousness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that faith is a complete conviction that simply by serving the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, one can achieve all perfection. That is faith. That is called real faith. As I was reading this, I was thinking also about, I'll finish this, but it just came to me about also chanting, because one of the 10 offenses to the holy name is to not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and maintaining material attachments. And sometimes it seems to me that we have more faith in our cell phones than in the chanting, because even while chanting, we want to check our messages. We want to, you know, see who sent a message or whatever it is in the social media. The social media is very, it takes so much of our time, our precious time, the time that we have, you know, to propagate this Krishna consciousness. And it's good in its place, but we should decide, are we going to connect with Krishna or are we going to connect with the cell phone? And I was just recently at a initiation given by Bhakti Damodar Goswami, and he told the devotees, if I see you chanting and using this finger to scroll while you're supposed to be chanting, I'm going to say you're not my disciple. you know. So it's true. We've taken that, and it's seeming to even like seep into our devotional process, you know, because if we're chanting and we're trying to connect with God, and we want, you know, it's hard enough just naturally trying, because the mind wants to take you away from trying to connect with Krishna, and we have to work with our mind. So what to speak of our mind and the cell phone too. So it's like if you're trying to talk with someone, then you should be talking to the person, even sometimes if you're talking to a person, you know, like, you know, or something, sometimes they'll like take out their cell phone and check the cell phone. You don't have their attention. So what to speak of us? What to speak of Krishna? You know, we want to connect with him. So if we're not sincerely trying to connect with him, which is a process in itself of a struggle to try to connect, to keep the mind focused, then you know, it's like being on the phone and then just like, you know, like talking to someone else or looking here or there, and then saying, oh, what did you say? You know, or just go back to, where were we? You know, and Chris is probably just like, okay, just take a break. You know what I mean? Because trying to feel the connection with Krishna, to somehow connect with Krishna, somehow, you know, that's the success. Even just one time. If we can connect with him one time, you know, it would be very, very nice. So, okay, as I read on, I was saying, so we know that by giving water to the root of a tree, one satisfies its branches and twigs. So it says, simply by engaging in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, one automatically satisfies all the demigods and all other living entities. Okay. Therefore, after reading Bhagavad-Gita, one should promptly come to the conclusion of Bhagavad-Gita. One should give up all other engagements, and adopt the service of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the person of Godhead. If one is convinced of this philosophy of life, that is faith. And to go back to the word sublime, today I was thinking, everything is sublime in this process. We're so fortunate. To be with the devotees is sublime. You know, to do devotional service is sublime. Even when you have difficulties, okay, it's sublime. Because you could be having material difficulties, but maybe we're having difficulties in devotional life. You know, but still, it's then a sublime process. Everything about it is sublime. The prasadam is sublime. Nobody would disagree with that. You know, everything about it is sublime. It's a lovely process. It's a wonderful process. It's a fantastic process. We're so fortunate to be in this process, that we got picked up out of the mud that we were wallowing in. And picked up to a point like, okay, I'm just a 5th grader, but now I have to try for the PhD. I'm only in the 5th grade, but this is the PhD. No, so I have to try to come up to that level, you know, to succeed in this process and to develop love of Godhead. So I'll talk about the division here. He talks about the different divisions of Krishna conscious men and their faith. In the 3rd class are those who have no faith. Even if they are officially engaged in devotional service, they cannot achieve the highest perfectional stage. Most probably they will slip after some time. They may become engaged, but because they have not complete conviction and faith, it is very difficult for them to continue in Krishna consciousness. Okay. As far as the development of faith is concerned, one who is well versed in the literatures of devotional service and has attained the stage of firm faith is called a 1st-class person in Krishna consciousness. And in the 2nd class are those who are not very advanced in understanding the devotional scriptures, but who automatically have firm faith that Krishna bhakti, or service to Krishna, is the best course, and so in good faith have taken it up. Thus they are superior to the third class, who have neither perfect knowledge of the scriptures nor good faith, but by association and simplicity are trying to follow. The third class person in Krishna consciousness may fall down, but when one is in the second class, he does not fall down. And for the first class person in Krishna consciousness, there is no chance of falling down. One in the first class will surely make progress and achieve the result at the end. As far as the third class person in Krishna consciousness is concerned, although he has faith in the conviction that devotional service to Krishna is very good, he has not yet gained adequate knowledge of Krishna through the scriptures, like Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-Gita. Okay. So thus, faith is very important in the discharge of devotional service. And I'll just read something from the Nectar of Devotion, and then we can conclude, or maybe we can have a few minutes for comments. 146. Okay, this is in the chapter Devotional Service and Pure Love of God. Although many different processes for developing love of Godhead have become explained so far, Sri Rupa Goswami now gives us a general description of how one can best achieve such a high position. The beginning of ecstatic love of Godhead is basically faith. There are many societies and associations of pure devotees, and if someone with just a little faith begins to associate with such societies, his advancement to pure devotional service is rapid. The influence of a pure devotee is such that if someone comes to associate with him with a little faith, one gets the chance of hearing about the Lord from authoritative scriptures like Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus, by the mercy of the Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart, one gradually develops his faith in the descriptions of such authoritative scriptures. This is the first stage of association with pure devotees. In the second stage, after one becomes a little advanced and mature, he automatically offers to follow the principles of devotional service under the guidance of the pure devotee and accepts him as the spiritual master. In the next stage, under the guidance of the spiritual master, the devotee executes regular devotional service, and as a result of such activities, he becomes freed from all unwanted occupations. When he is freed from unwanted occupations, his faith becomes steadily fixed, and he develops a transcendental taste for devotional service, then attachment, then ecstasies, and in the last stage, there's pure love of Godhead. These are the different stages of the development of pure love. You know, and I can think back to when I started, and some little advancement is there. You know, because I can see as I read this, the steps that my spiritual master took me through, you know. So the conclusion is that unflinching faith in devotional service, in Lord Krishna and in the spiritual master makes one highly elevated in the activities of devotional service. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Any questions, comments, criticisms, or welcome? And we have some advanced devotees here who may answer. Okay. Thank you, Mata. Anyone? Hare Krishna. Yes, Babu? It's not working? Oh, this one doesn't work? Okay. I'll repeat what you say. What you're asking, I'll try to repeat.
Yes. See, you were speaking about attachment to Krishna and devotional service, everything, attachment is there.
Attachment is there to Krishna, yes.
We have attachment with our mobiles.
Yes.
So, that attachment with mobile, when we are chanting in this one, if we ignore mobile and if we are chanting Hare Krishna, finishing our round, there any harm that we have attachment with Krishna and with Bhagavad?
The way I conduct is when I'm ready to chant, I turn off my phone and I just take that 2 hours. It's only 2 hours in the day. Only. You have all day for the rest. And devotees will understand, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you, but I was chanting. We should focus on connecting with the Lord. Anyone else?
That's amazing faith. You turn off your phone and chanting. It's amazing.
Because I don't have a fancy phone. I have a little skinny, cheap phone.
You were saying that faith is the introduction to Krishna consciousness, to have some faith.
Yes.
That Krishna says there's all kinds of people that approach me. The inquisitive and people seeking wealth.
Yes.
People seeking knowledge.
Yes.
Absolute truth.
Yes.
So does faith come before that? I mean, for somebody that's seeking wealth, for example, do they have faith that Krishna will bring them wealth? How does the faith go along those four kinds of people to approach Krishna?
They must have some faith because they're coming to him. And Krishna says, it's better that you come to me for those things. Don't go elsewhere. You come to me. If you want that, it's okay. He's so kind. It doesn't have to be, we're not pure. And he knows we've been in this material world for so long. And, so he even says, don't go to the demigods. Come to me. You want wealth? You want whatever? Come to me. Yes. Yeah. Anything else? Hare Krishna.